Hi everyone, my name is Chris Tuck and I am a survivor of all forms of abuse, mental, physical and sexual, within the family home environment and outside of the family home. I grew up in 3 domestic violence households and witnessed a lot of things a child should never witness. I was a member of the Victim and Survivors Consultative Panel at the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse from 2015 until the end of 2022. I also went through the criminal justice system for 5 years between 2016 and 2021. So I know full well how it feels to be let down by the statutory agencies, including the police, education and social care, as a child, as a young person and as an adult. Now, Sarah Champion MP asked me to speak at her event, Ending Child Sexual Abuse, on the 4th of February in Parliament. And this is the speech that I shared with everyone in the room and I'm sharing with you now. I stand before you not just as a campaigner, but as one of many survivors in the room, one of many of the service providers in the room. Like too many, we were let down by institutions that were there to protect us. We were silenced and further harmed by inaction and cover-ups. And yet, despite that, we are still here today, 10 years on for me, decades for many others. We are here because we refuse to be ignored. We are here because we do not want to accept any more broken promises. And we are here to demand action because we deserve action and so much more. The inquiry gave many of us a voice, and there are too many more survivors out there that still have not had their voices heard. For too long, governments have made promises but delivered nothing. Now, I know there's been work going on behind the scenes around mandatory reporting, and I know that there was a press release yesterday about the civil court actions can now be brought, and there's no time bar on that. But that time bar needs to be extended to the criminal injuries compensation as well. So we have had movement, but the big foundational changes that are needed are the recommendations that I'm going to talk more about right now and what I spoke about in my speech. So for too long, we've been told lessons will be learned, only to watch as recommendations from not only this inquiry, but other inquiries, other serious case reviews, were buried, delayed, or quietly dropped. This can't happen again. And the Act on IICSA campaign group and the IICSA Changemakers campaign group are going to make sure that we hold people to account, not only this government, but successive governments. We need you all to come together, cross-party, and collaborate and pledge that we will not let these 20 recommendations slip by the wayside. We need you to act on IICSA. The Home Secretary, like many others, has committed to implementing the recommendations, but commitments are not enough. We need to ensure that there is proper reform through legislation, through policies, through procedures, through processes, because child protection is not about party politics. It's not about anyone's ego. It's not about point scoring. It's about that cross-party collaboration. We need everyone to pledge to work together to ensure the inaction of these recommendations. Now, I've heard that there is departmental blockages within government. These have to be broken down. Any challenges need to be discussed. Ask victim and survivors to get round a table with the ministerial group, and we can help you overcome any challenges find solutions to getting these recommendations enacted. Now, the IICSA recommendations are not a pick and choose menu. They are a package. It's about making foundational changes to better protect children from sexual abuse and exploitation. It's about getting justice for survivors of all ages, and it's about ending systemic failure forever. The IICSA recommendations are a foundation for change. And in my opinion, this means a child protection authority to hold institutions accountable to ensure failures are never hidden again. It's about a minister for children, so child protection is no longer an afterthought. It is a proactive role within government, and it doesn't matter who is governing us, that this role drives the CPA, the Child Protection Authority, and drives overseeing everything that needs to be implemented. It's about mandatory reporting, so no professional can ignore or cover up abuse. It's about having a core data set so we can finally track and expose the true scale of child sexual abuse. It's about providing specialist support services so no survivor is left to struggle alone. And I know that service funding is being cut as we speak, and we can't allow this to happen. It's about a redress scheme so survivors are not forced to fight for justice. Only 3% of cases, as we know, get to court, and only 1% of those cases actually get a criminal conviction. So it's about making sure that all victims and survivors can access support and get redress, even if they do not go down that criminal justice route, which is not suitable for everyone, and not everyone can access that because there is not enough evidence for them to get what they need. So these reforms will fix some of the worst failures in our system, failures that have cost lives. And this is not about what is easy or politically convenient. It's about doing what is right. So what about organised networks and grooming gangs, rape gangs? Some say IICSA did not go far enough, especially on the grooming gangs and institutional collusion. And I truly understand the anger from victims, survivors, professionals, whistleblowers. We know that grooming gangs do not operate in isolation. They thrive in environments where institutions turn a blind eye, whether through neglect, incompetence, fear, or outright collusion. So the question for me is not whether more investigations are needed, because that is clear, but what we do right now to stop the conditions that allow grooming gangs to exist. And that is where the IICSA recommendations already take critical steps forward. Better data collection to track and expose patterns of organised abuse. Mandatory reporting so professionals cannot look the other way. So institutions cannot put their reputation before protection. A child protection authority to investigate failures and to prevent cover-ups. Now, would further investigation into grooming gangs and other areas of abuse be valuable? Absolutely. But another inquiry alone will not stop the abuse. It will not give the victim and survivors the justice that they so want. Any further investigations must go hand in hand with urgent implementation of the IICSA core recommendations. And why should we demand this? Well, because survivors have already waited long enough, because victims and survivors deserve action, and because we have put, many of us, so much energy into this, so much time into this, and we know that children and young people are being sexually abused and sexually exploited right now whilst I'm talking, whilst you may be thinking about what needs to happen. All you need to do is get us around the table and we can help you forge ahead with solutions, breaking down the barriers and making sure that we deal with this once and for all right now to help this generation and stop the rot moving on to the next generation. So although we call this the concluding final report, nothing concludes today until we implement the recommendations, until they are actually working and delivering. And until that day, we will continue to question and challenge. We will continue to fight for the protection of children and young people. We need to know that you are on our side. We all need to do what is right. This is not about politics. It's not about optics. It's not about egos. It's not about point scoring. It's about children. My child, your child, children we know. So no words, no promises, just please act on IICSA.